Ready. Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Hyde. I'm your presiding member for today, and I welcome everybody to the Regional Development Assessment Panel for Tuesday, the 15th of July. Declare the meeting open at 9:32 a.m. I would like to acknowledge we are hosting the meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and are joined by people from other lands around the state. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia and pay respects to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. Meeting will be run in accordance with the RDAP Standing Orders 2024 under the Planning and Development Assessment Panels Regulations 2021. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the RDAP website in accordance with Regulation 42A of those regulations. Members are reminded to announce their name and title prior to speaking. Panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. I'll now introduce the panel members for the first item. As I say, Karen Hyde, presiding member. To my left, Clayton Hyam, deputy presiding member. Further to my left, Eugene Coltaz, specialist member. And on screen, we have Councillor Todd Brown and Councillor Ben Andrew, local government DAP members from the City of Bunbury. Later in the meeting, we will be joined by Councillor Kate Cox and Councillor Anne Ryan, local government DAP members from the City of Busselton. Item 2, apologies, we have none, no members on leave of absence at item 3. Item 4, noting of minutes. Minutes are available on the DAP website. We'll move then into part B of our agenda for the City of Bunbury. We also have technical officers and advisors, David Tanchev, Alice Boldeck, Barbara McCauley and Cameron Scott available, and our applicant and submitter Nick Hidding from Hidding Urban Planning. Could I please first, under declarations of due consideration, ask all panel members to raise their hand to show that they've duly considered all of the documentation contained in Part B of the agenda and Part B related information. Thank you very much. Due consideration has been given by all. Disclosures of interest. Did panel members have any disclosures to declare? Any declarations to declare? Could I ask the councillors, was this item considered at council?
Through the chair, no, it wasn't.
Lovely, thank you. And we've got no other declarations of interest, so we will move ahead in the agenda. We have one presentation today from Nick Hidding in support of the application, and Nick has been allowed 3 minutes to make his presentation, after which panel members will be invited to ask questions. So Nick, I think you know the drill pretty well by now. So over to you when you're ready.
Thank you, presiding member, and good morning, everybody. It's good to see you. Thanks for the opportunity to present. So we act for Dorset Property Holdings, the new owner of this property at the corner of Ward Street and Doris Street in South Bunbury, for a proposed 87 place childcare premises. There's an application for development approval has been assessed by the City of Bunbury as a recommendation for approval in front of you today with conditions. This application was advertised for public comment and there were no submissions of objection, which was good. And there was a petition of support containing 29 signatures. So there's a bit of support out there for this project. In reviewing the conditions as set out in my submission, we're just seeking some minor changes to condition 6A and 10A, which concerns the boundary fencing, and also requesting a minor change to condition 15, which references a minimum number of parking bays. So just quickly, in the fencing, we seek for the 2 metre high fencing along the right of way to be retained, and that's just for the operator to ensure there's safety and security along that section against a right of way which comes right to the boundary for the children. And given that this property has 3 road frontage, we'd like for some solid fencing to be in the play area, whereas the Doris and Ward Street frontages, we'd seek for that to have open style fencing. And we've negotiated that with the city between the RA being produced and now. So we've spoken to the city's officers and agreed that what we've set out in our submission is the appropriate outcome. So we'd seek for the panel to do those minor changes. And condition 15 obviously currently references 25 parking bays, whereas this development has 24. So we'd seek for that to be changed as well. And just quickly, in reading the agenda, condition 7, which relates to a landscaping plan, part K of condition 7 talks to details of proposed on-site food production. I don't think that's necessary to be detailed on a landscape plan. So if the panel sees fit for K to be removed from condition 7. Otherwise, very happy with the recommendation for approval. It'd be a great project for this little corner here, and we'd seek for the panel to otherwise adopt the remainder of the recommendation and approve this development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. I'll invite panel members to ask questions. I'll refer to the elected members on screen first. Councillor Brown, did you have questions of the applicant?
Just in relation to 7K, details of the proposed on-site food production, is that a error?
You might have to ask the city that question. Thanks for the question. In my view, landscape plan shouldn't really be detailing areas of food production. So in my view, that might be an error, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Andrew, did you have questions?
Through the chair, no, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Panel members in the room, questions of the presenter, Mr. Conkless?
No.
Member Hyam?
Thank you, Nick. One of the conditions requires I think it's a 15.5 kilowatt solar panel installation. I couldn't see that in your application. Is that something that you were going to do, or is it something that's just coming out of the blue? I can't see how they've arrived at 15.5 kilowatts. I'll ask the city the same thing too.
Thanks for the question. Look, it's not something that we put in the application or detailed in our application. It came from the city's assessment based on some of the assessment that the city had done. So I'm not sure exactly where the 15.5 number came from, but again, it was the city that sort of imposed that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions from me. In looking at your acoustic work, mostly there's matters to consider noise emanating from the land use that you propose and its impact on the adjoining areas. But are you comfortable that there's no unforeseen impact from noise from the showrooms in the nearby service commercial area that may impact the children at the centre?
Thanks for the question, presiding member. No, we don't believe there's any impact from there. Look, it's directly opposite there. There's a car parking area. So look, there's really no intensive noise operations occurring in that area. I think that's been covered off in the acoustic assessment.
Lovely, thank you. And just one other question. This is part of a larger plot of land. Do you know what is proposed on the balance of lot beyond this childcare centre proposal?
Yeah, look, thanks for the question. So the property contains a number of lots, all of which are going to be amalgamated into a single parcel, and that's underway at the moment. The owner doesn't have a specific development in mind at the moment for the balance. They're actually intending perhaps just to do a car park at this stage because they own and operate a number of businesses in the immediate area in that showroom district. So they're planning on doing a car park at some stage. I mean, that's going to have to be subject to a separate application, of course.
All right, thank you for those responses. If there are no further questions of the applicant panel members, I will refer then to the officers at the City of Bunbury. And who have we got in the room? We've got, is it David and Alice available?
Yes, that's correct.
Lovely, thank you. So, councillor Brown, did you have any questions of the officers?
Yes, I just think just a follow-up on that condition 7K. Just the question is, was it input there in error, or is it something that I don't see pertinent to the landscaping?
Yeah, I included the condition. It was in their design report under their sustainability commitments. So it's just a way of ensuring that they're meeting their sustainability commitments as outlined in their design report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Andrew, did you have questions of the officers?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Panel members in the room, Member Cortez, did you have questions of the officers?
Just in regard to the changes to the fencing, I was confirming you're in agreement with that.
Yeah, with the fencing, Nick did approach us prior to the meeting, and we're happy with the conditions that's proposed to amend.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Member Hine?
Yes, thank you. Just in relation to the question I asked Nick about the 15.5 kilowatt system, where did that come from? And it seems so precise, 15.5 kilowatts.
Yeah, so obviously with the report outlines why we thought solar panels were required. In terms of the amount, I've got a background in sustainable design, and what I did is I researched how much energy a childcare centre of that size would require, and that doesn't cover all of it. And then I based it off some requirements that I'm from Victoria as well, that we would require in a childcare centre like this in terms of meeting sustainability requirements. And that number, I think it was, I don't remember the exact one, but it was based off a floor area calculation of, I think it was 200 watts per 20 square metres or something like that. So we wanted to put a number on there rather than just saying provision of solar, so that the applicant could have a chance to respond to that.
Okay, well, thank you. There was nothing in the RAR that supported that part of the condition, that's all.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, the detail wasn't there. Yeah, I guess we want solar panels to be provided at the end of the day is what we think is necessary.
Okay, thank you.
To follow up on that, if I
Member
may.
Cortez?
If you know how many panels that will require?
So each panel, like a very high spec panel, is 500 watts. You're probably looking at a 400 watt panel typically. So that would be around 30.
How many, sorry?
Around 30.
30. And did you work out whether they could be fitted on there at all?
They would be able to fit it there, yeah.
Okay. Just in terms of the condition, it may need to be refined a bit to give a bit of leeway as to whether they can in fact put them on the roof. We'll discuss that later though.
Okay, yeah.
I have a question on the same matter. What's the city's policy framework or scheme framework that you are relying upon for the imposition of that condition 6C regarding the solar panels?
It's just the SPP 7 mainly.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Are there any other questions of the officers? Then we will continue with our agenda and the item before us. And we have a responsible authority report recommendation that we accept this as childcare premises and approve subject to a number of conditions and advice notes. I'm seeking a mover, please, for that as the primary motion. Is there a mover? Thank you, Councillor Brown. Is there a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Andrew. Councillor Brown as mover, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think this is an important development for families of Bunbury and in general, the greater Bunbury area. at this time. Also, it's fantastic to see local family promoting this development, and I wish them the best of luck.
Thank you very much. Councillor Andrew, as seconder, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Chair. I'll just echo the comments of Councillor Brown. As always, development in the City of Bunbury is always welcome, but we also know the current constraints on childcare, so grateful and welcome the application, and thank you to all the staff from the City of Bunbury and the applicants' planners for bringing this to us.
Thank you, Councillor Andrew. Other speakers for or against the motion in the room? Member Coltas, thank you.
Yeah, look, from a planning point of view, this is a good outcome. The zoning and land use permissible under the scheme. The public consultation demonstrated support for the proposal. The land use meets the objectives of the planning framework for the area. Bunbury Plaza Activity Centre. In terms of the use, it fits the mixed use profile that is promoted for childcare centres, and it separates the development from residential areas. In terms of built form, the height, setbacks, landscaping all comply with the relevant schemes. The design criteria under SPP 7 have been complied with, and car park traffic and access are all addressed. Noise emissions, the impact statement showed that there's little or no impact on residential areas nearby. So I'm supporting the proposal.
Thank you. Other speakers, Member Hyam?
Thank you. I guess of all the childcare centres that I've dealt with over the last couple of years, this has got to be the easiest one to support. It's not complicated by a whole lot of other things that normally get in the way of childcare centres, such as residential on the doorstep sort of thing. So well done to Nick and his team. It's well designed, well located within that particular zone, and as Member Coltas has said, it does satisfy the objectives and intent of the scheme and the policies, and I'm more than happy to support it. There are some adjustments required, and going to turn to 6A,
Yes.
which I think is a deletion of 6A to leave the front wall and fences along the right of way as they are in the plans. So it's proposing to delete
There were alternate words.
all the alternate words.
Were final fencing details for open style fencing along Ward Street and Doris Street,
Yes.
along with acoustic perspex material, as well as visually permeable fence above 1.2 metres within the sightline area of the corner of Doris Street and the right
Sorry,
of way.
I was looking for it in the
Yes.
in the submission. Yes, that is what I'm proposing. Sorry about that.
I am happy to second that amendment. Would you like to speak to that amendment, Member Hyam?
Look, I don't think the fencing along the right of way is going to create any amenity problems, and it's probably a better option given the particular location there. So I'm happy to support that.
Yes, I concur with that. I'm thankful that the applicant and city officers have reached an agreement on this. I think it provides a balance between the visual activation and potential for passive surveillance, but equally enables some level of privacy and containment on the remainder of the site. So with that, are there any other speakers for that amendment? If there are no other speakers, let's put that amendment to the vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Back to you, Member Hyam.
I'm going to leave 7K as it is. I suppose I'm still a little bit perplexed at exactly what that means, but I think it's referring to the on-site production of food and veggies, whatever. So I'm prepared to leave that as is. And then in terms of 10A, now there's a, I've got to find that. It's 10A, updated acoustic.
I have wording that the applicant provided, which would be to replace A with the words to address details of alternate fencing to Ward Street and Doris Street and for the sightline area at the corner of Doris and the right of way.
I'm moving that amendment.
I'm happy to second that amendment. Would you like to speak to it?
Thank you. Yes, look, I think as it says there, this is an updated acoustic report, and we'll be prepared to address those details of alternative fencing, and I think that minor amendment can be made.
Yes, thank you. And as seconder, I concur with that. I think it just ties 10A and 6A together nicely for consistency's sake. Any other speakers on amendment 2? If not, we'll put amendment 2 to the vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Back to you, Member Hyam.
I was going to make some change to the requirement for 15.5 kilowatt of panels in 6C to try and just broaden that slightly. The building shall incorporate a solar panel system suitable for the requirements of the use.
Right. So the word, you would be deleting 15.5K and you would be inserting words a solar panel system suitable for
the proposed use and building.
The proposed use and built form.
Yes.
Right, that's moved by Member Hyam. Is there a seconder, please? Member Coltas seconds. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Look, that's just simply providing some flexibility for the applicant. There's still a requirement to put in a solar system, but it needs to recognise not only just the use that's been calculated by the city offices, but also the built form that's there and the capability of the building to take a system.
Thank you. Member Coltas as seconder, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, I think it's just a bit too prescriptive without any formal planning basis. I think we understand that from a sustainability point of view, it would be appropriate to incorporate that, and I'm pretty sure that in this day and age, an operator of a childcare centre with all the power draw that has would make it would welcome putting it in anyway. So I just support that change.
Thank you. Any other speakers on that amendment? If not, we'll put that to the vote. Those in favour of that amendment? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Still with you, Member Hyam.
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay. I will speak to the motion.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to talk about the condition 15.
I'll give you that. I will speak to the motion, and I am comfortable with this application. It's not necessarily usual for childcare centres to be located in service commercial areas, but there again, there are a number of examples of this where it works very well. And I think in this context, particularly proximity to a broader residential catchment and Bunbury Plaza, it's absolutely appropriate and quite acceptable. It's very convenient to that catchment. of workforce and residents. I don't see there being any amenity issues. I'm comfortable with the parking. There's a minor variation to the primary street setback, which I think is quite acceptable. The matter of fencing that we have resolved through amendment allows for sufficient surveillance and interaction, but provides as well appropriate privacy in certain locations. I think there's a good level of landscape. There's trees anticipated to the car park area. It's a good quality of development, which generally meets the requirements of SPP 7. And other details will be forthcoming through the conditions to provide improved sustainability and walkability. And it responds very well to community requirements, and noting that there was a good community submission in support of this. So I'm happy to approve, but I would like to make one further amendment, and that would be to condition 15, and that would be to delete the number 25 and replace with the number 24. That's what I move. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Member Hyam. I don't think I really need to say very much. It's just consistent with the proposal, the plans, and therefore provides clarity. Do you wish to speak to it? Any other speakers on that amendment? If not, we'll put that amendment to the vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. I don't have anything further to say, so I will refer back to the mover of the motion, Councillor Brown, to close debate for us.
Thank you. I have said everything I need to, and I think the amendments are fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that then, let's vote on the substantive as amended. Those in favour? That's a unanimous decision. Thank you. We will then just close out this portion of the agenda. We have no Form 2s to consider, no Section 31 SAT reconsiderations. So I'll take this opportunity to thank Councillor Ben Andrew and Councillor Todd Brown, our local government members from the City of Bunbury, for their attendance and participation. Thank the local government members and the applicant for their participation. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Good morning.
Before we start, City of Busselton, Bethany, just confirm that you can hear us okay, and just want to test your.
Sorry.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes, we can. We're just having issues with our camera. We're just going to get it sorted now. Sorry.
There's like a thing on there, isn't it? You need to press that iPad thing. But then, did you do the WinK thing?
Good, we're all online. I'll open this part of the meeting at 10:01 for the City of Busselton and introduce panel members. We welcome Councillor Kate Cox and Councillor Anne Ryan, our local government DAP members from the City of Bunbury to Busselton to the panel. And we have the same members as previously: Karen Hyde, presiding member, Clayton Harm, deputy presiding member, and Eugene Coltas as our specialist member. First item is for declaration and due consideration. Could panel members please acknowledge with a show of hands that they've considered all matters of the agenda Part C and related information Part C, including noting that we did have a couple of R13 directions on the 11th and the 14th of July. There was some additional information provided late yesterday and circulated this morning. I have asked the applicant to speak to this, as members may not have had sufficient time to consider that matter. But could we have a show of hands for all the other items? Thank you. Due consideration has been given to those other items. Disclosures of interest. I've not received any. Did any members have any disclosures to raise? Could I please ask the councillors, was this matter considered at council?
No.
Through the chair, no, it was not.
Lovely, thank you very much for that. So we can move ahead. We have a couple of presentations this morning for lot 396, number 1271 Caves Road, Quindelup, for hotel development. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes and there's been no extension granted. So if you could please focus on the key points that you wanted to consider, that would be good. I'll give you an idea when you reach your 3-minute point. The order I have here is with Fred Cheney first and then Canella Hope second, but it's up to you how you organise yourselves. So when you're ready, thank you.
Thank you very much. My name's Fred Cheney, TRC Checks Director of Practice, and thanks for the opportunity. It's been a process that we connected here.
There is a bit of a time lag between.
Thank you. Go a bit more manually. It's been a terrific project we're involved with. We've had a team, landscape architects, planners, engineers, having a really good look at all the issues on the site. We've had a long relationship with the proponent, team for well over a decade now. And it's a site we're familiar with, and we certainly feel it's an optimal site for this sort of oriented development. It's a very beautiful part of the southwest. It's led, of course, we think this development is only going to complement and augment all of the attributes of that site, including its ecological attributes. It's a well-known site in and I guess destination in the Bunbury area, out of town, and we've worked really hard to work with the existing site, both in terms of its ecology, its landscape, and the buildings. And we note that there's been a little bit of commentary around, I guess, the colours and hues of the development. We're open to I guess some development of that through the design development process. I think Canella might have described it as autumnal in quality. We might describe it as a sort of earthier mix of colours and materials that we're very comfortable working, I guess, to develop those, because we've always wanted to relate the buildings to the existing. This just sets out a few key design parameters and strategies for the site. Primarily about setting the larger building back from Caves Road, and we've got some renders to describe the minimal impact that it has on Caves Road and indeed on surrounding areas. You will know there are 10 sort of villa type accommodation units, as well as the 138 hotel rooms across 2 major buildings, as well as a sort of hospitality facility which steps down back towards the road. Let's keep going. There's been a bit of toing and froing around some of the detailed landscape work. Virtually all of the substantial trees along Caves Road, which are really the key landscape elements, as well as the Toby's Inlet edge, are retained, and this development will actually strengthen and reinvigorate the sort of endemic landscape qualities of this site. There are some introduced species that form part of the mix, but if anything, we're leaving the site in a sort of nature positive sense, to coin a term. There's a terrific practice out of Singapore called WOHA, run by an old contemporary of mine from UWA, and they've at a kind of international level developed this idea of leaving sites in an ecologically positive sense, and that's exactly our intent here. This sets out, I guess, the relationship of the roadway and the landscape along Hayes Road, and the buildings and the setting and the scale of the buildings in terms of that relationship to Hayes Road. And you can see how diminished effectively they are because of their significant setback from the road. In the main, you won't really see these buildings except for that entry point. So the buildings, as you know, are 3-storey with a setback 4th storey, and then it steps down to a 3-level building as you move back towards the existing restaurant. These renders show a slightly lighter set of materials and hues, and as I say, we're very open to sort of darkening up the palette to, I guess, create a slightly more recessive impact. We've also worked, I guess, with the whole idea of a sort of holiday destination, holiday chalets, and the chalets are a really nice counterpoint to the larger scale buildings on the site.
Just over your 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm pretty much close to concluding, so I'll leave it here. This just is an interesting drawing, but it does show the extensive setback of these taller buildings from Caves Road. And then there's a series of renders that you're all very familiar with. So those lighter tones will be darkening up in terms of the request condition attached to it. I think that gives you a good sense of the very human scale of the development of the site, and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Canelo, if we continue with you, and then I'll open for questions and I'll introduce your other team members at that point.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So good morning, and thanks for the opportunity to present. This really is a very exciting development, and we've been very pleased with the city's recommendation for approval, which we hope the panel will also agree with. As you've heard, Palmer's Winery is an established tourism destination. So this project is effectively a brownfield redevelopment of Palmer's. So because of this, it really does avoid expansion into productive agricultural land and also sensitive environmental and also landscape value areas, which, as the panel knows, is proving somewhat of a challenge for other accommodation proposals in this area. The site is very well located and it's very private. And as Fred's outlined, that's been very pivotal in the careful design response. In terms of that interface with Toby's Inlet, Palmer's Winery has worked with the catchment group for more than 22 years, Steve. And we really see this development as opportunity to strengthen that relationship and really build upon that and improve the interface to the inlet. We did receive the Shire's response to conditions late yesterday, so thank you for circulating my quick reply back. We were pretty pleased that most of the things that we'd flagged are now resolved. The main one I wanted to talk to was about the main roads position, 3.2. We're very pleased to see that revised. However, we do still query the new reference to a minimum 80 kilometres per hour, simply because that's different to the original condition. Excuse me. I'm just going to grab a quick drink. Sorry, I've been talking too much this morning. So, that's going to catch me. My apologies.
That's all right. Would it help you? We do have the table that you sent through this morning available? Would it help if we put it onto the screen and shared that?
Potentially. Perhaps if I continue and
Right.
Sorry, now I'm losing my voice. Maybe at the end, if
Yes.
you're happy to run through the table.
Well, we'll put it up and then we can get the officers' responses to that. I was thinking of trying to save your voice, but do carry on.
That's okay. Hopefully it returns.
Yes.
So in terms of that main roads condition 3.2, is just clarifying on that wording around minimum 80-kilometre design speed. That is a little bit different to the main roads response. And we'd request that that references a maximum 80 kilometres per hour or even 80 kilometres per hour or less as design speed. That stays true to the original condition, but it also creates the scope that we've been after. And you would have seen in that addendum material that was circulated just around contextually Caves Road and a lot of the other things that are happening in Dunsborough that may also actually impact on speed limit and the ultimate design outcome here for this upgrade. It's me. Sorry. Oh, gosh. So in terms of all the other changes, overall, we're pretty happy with those. Gosh, I haven't coughed all morning. I did have the flu a week ago, so this probably is the residual effect.
It happens to me all the time.
So in terms of the other conditions, overall, they're largely fairly minor tweaks that we were chasing. It's really about avoiding duplication and also providing certainty. So we can talk to those in a moment, but overall, this is a very significant and also a very timely tourist development for Dunsborough. Overall, it satisfies and it's very consistent with the planning framework. The development does support broader goals, so around things like expansion of flights to Busselton, increases in the cruise ship tourism, and also the city's own changes that they're pursuing around the short stay Airbnb market as well. This really is a very thoughtful and efficient redevelopment. It doesn't expand into greenfield or visually sensitive landscape land. And we say this is a really valuable step forward in terms of providing more diverse, bespoke, and particularly high-end tourist accommodation in the region. So thank you. Please put up with my voice.
That's all right. Thank you. Now, we also have with you this morning Kieran O'Neill from Complex, Anita Elson from TRCB, and Steve Palmer from Perth Food Bowl.
Good morning.
Thank you. So I'll invite panel members first, the councillors on screen, if they have questions of the presenters or other members of their team. Councillor Cox, did you have any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of my questions is probably to the City of Busselton staff.
Okay, we can refer to the staff in a little
later.
while. Yes.
Okay, as opposed to the presenters, because it does relate to Caves Road.
Okay, did you have any questions of the presenters or not at this point? I can come back to you.
No, not at this point, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Ryan, did you have any questions of the presenters?
I do, if I may, and it's in relation to that main road speed of 80 kilometres, a minimum of 80 kilometres an hour. In discussions the other day, it's noted that the speed limit on Caves Road is 90 kilometres, then it goes down to 70 kilometres. Where 80 kilometres would come into it is a bit of a strange one to me. And I would have thought that you would go from 90 to 70, and because it's 70 then right the way through into Dunsborough. So I'm just unsure as to where the 80 kilometres has come into the equation.
All right, thank you. Perhaps the applicant can respond to that.
Sure. As you would have seen from the correspondence, we've been in discussion with Main Roads about the best outcome for the intersection, which is accepted. There needs to be some improvement. I think the 80 kilometres is probably a bit of a compromise between 70 and 90. In terms of the condition, though, I think we can cater for a variety of outcomes that may eventuate through detailed design and depending on what else is happening in Dunsborough in terms of this stretch of Caves Road. Hence why it's important, I think, to have that, change that wording around so that there is that degree of flexibility. I suppose the reality is that the panel would appreciate between 70, 80 and 90 kilometres per hour. That does have an impact in terms of constructing new turning lanes and the length of it. I think the 80 kilometres was a bit of a compromise.
Thank you for that. Councillor Ryan, did you have other questions?
I do, just to follow up on that one. Would you be uncomfortable though with it being 70 and, you know, sort of keeping it in keeping with the rest of the road?
No, not uncomfortable if it was changed to that. We've certainly had that dialogue with Main Road about a reduction in the speed. As you would have seen in that correspondence that was circulated about some of the other things happening in Dunsborough, one of the options that we have put forward is moving that speed sign back so that the change from 90 to 70 happens on the east side rather than the west side of the Palmer's entry. And that would then change the design solution for that intersection.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. We've just been advised that Main Roads are also online. So when we finish with our questions of the presenters, we can also refer to Main Roads as well as the city. So thank you for that information. So there's a couple of questions there on notice for others attending the meeting. Councillor Ryan, did you have any other questions of the presenters at this point?
If I may, it's sorry, it's a little bit all over the place because of the requested changes and so on. But I'm wondering whether the proponent is happy with 3.9 and 3.18 being amalgamated. And what is the difference, or is it just a double up?
So 3.9 is the construction environmental management plan.
Yep.
That one is a construction management plan. We've suggested that they could be combined. I don't think it's a major issue, but environmental management is a key part of a construction management plan. Construction management plan particularly deals with managing earthworks, stormwater runoff, and we acknowledge that is important in this location close to Toby's Inlet. Certainly being a key part of the design managing water that's presently unmanaged actually at the site. So yeah, for certainty we would like them combined, but yeah, not a major issue.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Councillor Ryan, other questions of the presenter?
Yes, please, if I may. The removal of O and your request to have the removal of G, what would be the nearest property that is closest to this development? And I'm wondering, I mean, I pretty much pass the development on a weekly basis, and I'm not sure that there's any properties close by, but where does the implications of a nearby property come into a dilapidation arrangement?
This is in relation to condition 3.18. Yeah.
Yes.
And hence, that's actually the reason for that question. There's a falling down shed on the immediate property to the east. But other than that, there aren't any neighbours nearby. This is not an urban context where, for example, there's construction close to somebody else's home. So that was the reason for our question.
Okay, thank you. Further questions of the presenter, Councillor Ryan?
No, I think I'm good. I've killed a number of trees printing off all this information, but I think I'm good. Thank you.
You're going to replant them.
We're doing our bit.
Okay, all right. Other panel members, questions of the presenters. Member Hyam.
Thank you. Just some further questions about the access road and the speed of the road. My reading of main roads, and I'll ask main roads these questions as well, but was that they weren't talking about a minimum or a maximum, they were talking about an 80 km/h speed.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then why would we in the condition talk about a minimum or maximum? We talk about a design speed of 80 km/h.
Sure. As I indicated, there's a lot happening in Dunsborough at the moment. There's a major residential expansion front in a scheme amendment, as well as a structure plan. So quite a lot of change potentially happening. We're also aware of congestion at the roundabout peak times, and there's the tourist information bay as well, which is still a bit of a moving part in the conversation about what is the best solution here. And main roads flag that as well. The other part of it is, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, once the development approval is issued, there'll be a period of detailed design and then construction. The new intersection is not actually required to be built until the new development is there and ready to go, effectively. Our position has been more than happy to upgrade, but we'd like to have some flexibility around what that solution looks like. The other X factor in all of this, of course, is the Bass-Dunsborough Link Road, because that will fundamentally change how you access the resort. It will become a cul-de-sac, a dead end. There's perhaps potential for the leg from Caves Road to the Dunsborough Link, perhaps to happen sooner. If those things eventuate and sooner than planned, a gold standard, brand new, very expensive intersection here will become redundant. So we just want to be able to factor in and deal with those things.
One of the other factors that I read was that there are a lot of services within that road reserve as pretty much as normal. How's that going to impact any proposed redesign?
Yeah. Obviously, the impact on services varies depending on the type of intersection that gets landed on. But my understanding is, from our preliminary due diligence, is that it can all work. So the design concept that's been presented is to 90 km/h, which needs more land, of course. And we've carried out a survey over the weekend, but also done a lot of work in understanding the impact on services. Managing services in a road reserve is a typical thing.
But all this, of course, needs the approval of main roads. So how can we agree to a condition which requires the approval of main roads as a third party?
We're comfortable with the amended wording of the conditions, save for what I've flagged about the speed, that gives scope for the applicant to continue to liaise with main roads to ultimately end up with the most suited intersection.
There's no certainty in that condition, is there?
Well, main roads have agreed to the condition. They've agreed to the intersection upgrade. So that is certain that there needs to be some work done here. We're comfortable with that level of certainty that it can be delivered. There's several options available for the intersection. One of the others John mentioned is potentially even shifting the access further south. There's just a number of moving parts as to what's going to be the best outcome in that regard. I suppose overall we understand that main roads support the development subject to the intersection being upgraded, and we agree to do that. We just need to work out the finer details.
Just changing tack slightly. The plant conditions refers to a landscape buffer to the southern side of the car park. Looking at the car park, it's hard to see how that might be redesigned to incorporate the landscape buffer. Any comment there?
Yeah, I mean, the buffer would effectively be tree planting on the boundary. So to form a canopy along that edge, that's a pretty standard technique, is to plant trees in the corner of each car bay. I mean, it wouldn't be every car bay, it's probably every third or fourth car bay. So effectively creating a screen to those buildings from a distance. So that's the nature of the buffer.
So that's what you would think is the buffer. Okay.
Yeah, if I can add to that, the landscaping plan we had up on the screen before, we did do the due diligence of the landscape architect involved in the project and how it all fitted together within the car park. So there is actually space.
We had car parks perpendicular to the boundary line. We've rotated those so that they're now parallel to that side of the boundary line, and that's created a 15-minute landscape belt, I guess. And then we've found alternative locations for those car parks.
There's some discussion in the Responsible Authority report about, because we've got floodplain needing to reach a finished floor level of 3.2. And then obviously you've got your development on top. The impressions that you showed us, the elevations that you showed us, are they at a scale that take account of that fill?
That's right. That is RRL.
The main hotels up at 3.5. The villas are currently at 2.5, so they're 700 below where they need to be. But the idea is that the villas and the boardwalks to them are above ground, so we can manage that in the design.
Right, with no impact upon view corridors, visibility, etc. Okay, thank you for that answer. You've questioned condition 5.5 and the need to, I guess, reference the traffic corridor and effectively SPP 5.4. Could you provide some background as to why you believe that's not the case?
Sure. In the early part of the DA process, we clarified that with the city that the noise requirements of that SPP didn't apply because of the distances to the habitable or the accommodation component of the development.
Right. Okay, thank you for that answer. Any other questions of the presenters or their team before we move ahead? Okay, so we will now invite questions of the city officers, and I think we've got Andrew Watts, Bethany Baker, Daniel Abrams and Oscar Staples. Is that correct?
My name's Joanna Wilson. I'm just here instead of Andrew Watts.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Joanna. And we've also got officers from Main Roads. I can see Aaron Milne as the name on screen. Who have you got with you?
Aaron Milne, and I've got Craig Brown with me as well.
Sorry, what was that?
Brown.
Craig Brown, thank you very much. So now we'll invite panel members if they have questions of the officers, or if the officers feel that needs to be referred to Main Roads, or Main Roads can provide some further context, that would be excellent. So Councillor Cox, did you have questions of the officers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My questions actually would be directed now to Main Roads if we have those officers available.
Yes,
if I may. So the proponent, so directing this question to the officers from Main Roads, the proponent is basing some of the traffic design on Caves Road with the assumption that the vast Dunsborough link is going to be built due to the fact that we have other subdivisions potentially coming online in the next few years. My understanding as a councillor is that the vast Dunsborough link is not, that main roads are not going to be commencing the vast Dunsborough link for many years, maybe as many as 10. Can we get some clarification from main roads around what is a realistic time frame, given that the proponent is using the vast Dunsborough link as justification to perhaps put in a less comprehensive ingress and egress into this development?
Thank you. Aaron or Craig, would you provide a response?
Yep, so you're correct. The vast Dunsborough link is not on Main Road's project plan as it currently stands. So it's not scheduled for the next 10 years. And given the scale of such a project and length of development, it would be likely to be in that 15 to 20 year time frame.
Thank you. That has been my understanding from council briefings that have occurred. So I'm just, I would think that using that assumption that it will be built any time sooner is potentially problematic. Just a further question, if I may, to Main Roads. I note your comments in the most recent reports from the 1st of July that you will consider a speed reduction to 80 kilometres. Nevertheless, access concept plan is considered to be deficient, and other comments that the current concept plan is only two-dimensional and the length of right-hand turn treatment is substandard for the design speed of the road. Can you just make perhaps a bit more clarification around those comments, please?
So the first point there with regards to the design speed of 80, just for clarity, that would be a posted speed of 70 and a design speed is the criteria we apply for turning treatments and other design for safety factors. So the reference to design speed of 80 is for the 70 kilometre speed zone to be extended from Commonage roundabout past the frontage of this property.
Thank you.
And the two-dimensional design is commentary around if design criteria such as batters, drainage and the likes, we haven't seen any sort of detailed design progress, and therefore that may affect the location of where services can be positioned, drainage infrastructure, or future property boundaries as a result of that.
Thank you. And just regarding the length of the right-hand turn treatment is substandard for the design speed of the road. That's the current design that they've submitted is substandard.
That's correct. So applying Austroad's road guide to road design, the right turn pocket minimum lateral movement length would be 70 metres plus an extra 20 for the taper length. So the 9 isn't displayed on the drawing.
Thank you. And just one further supplementary question, if I may. We have had some information from proponents of some of the newer subdivisions that may be occurring in the next few years that once the last stage of the Dunsborough East development is completed without the vast Dunsborough link, that the roundabout at Elmore Road and Commonage Road and Caves Road will fail according to their traffic modelling. And the completion of that development, I'm not sure on the time frame of that. With this development as well, you may anticipate that I mean, what is your commentary around the failure of that roundabout to cope with this additional traffic, given that we have 2 subdivisions coming online, actually 3, that will be using Commonage Road, and then this development as well on Caves Road. Does Main Roads have any commentary on when you believe that roundabout, given that it's already under pressure in peak times, when it may fail, at what point it may fail?
I don't have any information on the service of that roundabout at the moment. With this development, it'll naturally increase traffic onto Caves Road for that east-west movement. but I don't have any information on the commonage side of the roundabout.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Ryan, did you have questions of the officers?
No, thank you.
Panel members in the room, questions of the officers? Member Coltas?
Not at this stage.
Member Hyde?
Gentlemen, the condition around the access way refers to a minimum of a minimum of 80 kilometre per hour design speed. So that's an appropriate part of the condition, is it? So to say it's a minimum design speed of 80?
Sorry, was that directed at myself?
Yes, sorry, yes.
That's right. Yeah, I suppose a design speed of 80 would be an appropriate wording.
It doesn't need to say a minimum.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
No, not this time.
I have some questions of the city officers at this point. Could you comment on the applicant's comments on condition 5.5 related to notifications on title, and particularly that issue of whether SPP 5.4 actually applies here, please?
Yes, so as part of the assessment, we considered the sites located within a bushfire prone area. Obviously the mosquito is an issue coming from Toby's Inlet, and also it is within, we had regard for SPP 5.4 in terms of noise. The actual build form and the habitable accommodation has a sufficient separation to not be impacted by noise. So there was no design elements included within the actual buildings to accommodate or to satisfy that. But the site itself is within that distance to obviously Case Road, which is a substantial borough there and road, which is why we had regard for SPP and recommended that that was imposed as well as the other notifications on title.
Would it not normally be the case, though, that this is applied to habitable accommodation or accommodation where people are residing or sleeping or you know, there during sensitive hours rather than just outdoor situations?
Do you mean, sorry, just to clarify, are you saying in terms of?
Well, I'm just wondering if you're advising that it impacts the lot, but not the actual accommodation that's being proposed here. So I'm just wondering why you feel it necessary to apply that on title when it's not impacting the areas where people will actually be spending their time during sensitive hours, as it were, overnight, etc.
Yeah, and we have discussed this section with our health team, and this is one notification that we, because of the fact that the habitable elements are not within that setback, we would be comfortable with the removal of that notification. However, we would not be comfortable with the removal of the bushfire prone area or the mosquito.
No, I understand that. I understand that. Thank you for that answer. The applicant has also talked about combining condition 318, which relates to construction management, and also with combining that with 3.9. Do you have any issues with that combination, given that there may be some interface or integration of certain actions between those two plans?
Yes, we would object. I will let the engineers describe the difference between them, but they are very different conditions and require very different things. So I can let them explain the difference between the two conditions.
So construction management plan is in relation to logistics of construction on the site, so such as parking, laydown areas, access, and the like. And the construction environmental management plan details how the construction will limit, or the practices to be implemented as part of the construction will limit the impact of the construction on the receiving environment, the surrounding environment. And they're particularly important to separate the two because of the sensitivity of the surrounding environment.
Okay, thank you for that answer. With condition 322, which talks to lighting management plan, why do you feel that the condition needs to reflect Australian standards, as those standards generally apply, like outside of the planning framework, as opposed to dark sky principles, which are much more related to planning commission and planning framework matters?
Whilst we agreed for the actual development in terms of the internal development and people moving around the actual facility, etc., with the dark sky principles, it was the actual access onto the Caves Road and the requirements from main roads to comply with, and the city in order to comply with the actual Australian standards for light and accessing onto that road. So we didn't want to say dark sky principles because obviously it may conflict with the Australian standards in terms of what you need for an access onto a main road.
Yes, okay. So is it not just the case, therefore, that you need a lighting management plan rather than it being necessarily consistent with dark sky principles, which I understand you're thinking might conflict with lighting standards for an intersection? Is it rather that you just need a lighting management plan?
Yes, exactly. And yes, that would satisfy both.
Okay, thank you for that. I may have some others, but I'll allow other panel members any further questions. Did you have any further questions? Did you have any further? Okay. One other, the applicant had requested that 3.2 and 3.3, one which refers to the intersection and the other which refers to the utilities be combined. Do you have issues with that suggestion? Why was it that you proposed them separately?
Clarity, they're very different conditions, but I will let main roads, obviously both conditions are from main roads, so I might ask them to also provide their views.
All
but
right, thank you.
It is a case that they are requesting very different things.
Okay. Craig or Aaron, would you like to respond to that question?
So the condition 3.2 is around the upgrade of the access and the treatments to be applied, and 3.3 is around the land requirements to accommodate the road upgrade, relocation of any services and the likes. So one is
I understand the difference, but is the potential to relocate services not related to the final design that comes forward? I'm just wondering why they are specifically required to be separate conditions.
I suppose that's typically how I've seen the conditions written with regards to land offset versus intersection upgrade.
And we have the same view. This is a very standard conditions where you would separate them both.
Right, okay. But it is understood that relocation of utility services, etc., is to be only related to the design of that intersection, which is specifically required for this development and not for other purposes or general road widening beyond what might be required for this development. Is that the case?
Yes, that is the case, and maybe whether or not there could be an advice note just to clarify that for the applicant.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. I don't have any further questions, Member Coltas.
Just going on to that, 3.2 talks about the design speed, and I've just thought that's a condition where you say the design should identify any land requirements and relocation of services, etc. That could, and then maybe you could put 3.3 in as an advice note. It just does double up. It just takes one of the conditions, but does identify land requirements anyway. But we can talk about that later anyway.
Yes, please, Member Heim.
The suggested rewording of 3.2 and 3.3 are the main roads, gentlemen, in agreement with those suggested or reworded conditions and the deletion of 3.4. That's what the city have put forward.
Yeah, so in agreement with what the city's proposed for the conditions. The 3.3 and 3.2 and 3.3.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Are there any further questions at this point? Yes, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Presiding Member. It's the, I'm just going back to the dilapidation situation. And I did ask staff, but I'm not sure that I received a response as yet. But it's the wording of it sorry, I've just lost where I am.
It's 318.
318, yes. So what distance does it relate to? And, you know, is it a metre? Is it 100 metres? Is it 10 kilometres? And that's the question that I have, which safeguards not only the developer, but also the surrounding landholders. So there's no definition of, you know, the amount of distance. And so therefore I'm just a bit concerned. Do we leave it in, or do we take it out, or do we clarify what the distance is for dilapidation reports?
So to clarify, the engineers may jump in if I'm describing this incorrectly, but it would be for the applicant's engineer, based on the actual construction methods of each of the different elements, or each of the different buildings. It would be up to that engineer to work out what that impact may be on surrounding structures, roads, etc., to work out what that dilapidation could be. So that's something that they need to actually go away, and their engineer needs to work out and then advise us. And it's different for every development, depending on what that construction method will be and the extent of it.
So is that in an advice note anywhere?
No, it's not as an advice note, but yes, it could. Yes, that could be explained to them. But it is something. It's a standard requirement during the construction phase, though.
I understand that, but not all developments are in the middle of nowhere. Sorry, I don't mean to be derogatory, but it's not surrounded by a lot of buildings, and therefore, you know, it's just a different kettle of fish. So,
and that's an advice note explaining that it's a requirement for their engineer to work out that based on their construction methods and the surrounding properties.
And the O, I see that you've agreed to remove O as a condition, but what does that mean as well? I mean, if you haven't figured out what needs to be in or out in the RAR, then what other issues could be raised, down the track?
And we agreed to, it is a standard condition, but it is something that we've agreed to remove because we figured we have covered everything that we've required within the remainder of the condition.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. If there are no further questions, then we will proceed with the meeting at this point. And we have before us a responsible authority report, which is to approve this development, subject to a number of conditions and advice notes. So I'm seeking a mover, please, that as the primary motion. Do I have a mover?
I'm happy to move.
Councillor Ryan moved. Is there a seconder, please? Member Coltaz is seconding. Councillor Ryan has moved. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'm happy to move this, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity to have a resort rather than just accommodation and a hotel. And I think the vision coupled with the Busselton Airport is a very exciting one. I do recall a number of years ago speaking with a fairly senior person at Qantas who said the reason why Qantas won't fly into Busselton is because there's no package deals. So this could be an opportunity to start package deals into Busselton Airport with Qantas from varying other areas. So I welcome it. I think it's congratulations on the developers and all those involved, and I think it'll be a fantastic thing for the city of Busselton and Dunsborough.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ryan. As seconder, Member Coltaz, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I think the development is a significant one for the locality and the region. I think it's probably it's been a while since a development of this sort has been promoted, or maybe hasn't been promoted down there, although down sort of has shades of some of the other major developments down Bunbury Bay and so forth, and they've been very successful. The planning framework allows for this. The land zoned appropriately to allow under discretion a hotel. The development has been through a design review process, and whilst it hasn't ticked off all the boxes, there are a number of conditions that have been imposed on the approval to seek further changes, things like the colour palette of the building, etc. The height and visual impact I don't have a problem with. The proponents have addressed that appropriately with a report that demonstrates it will have minimal visual impact. The heights does step down and is significantly, the buildings that are of note are quite a long way back from the main road, the main view corridor. Traffic, I'll get back to that in a minute. Parking has been considered appropriate. They've demonstrated that there's an appropriate amount of parking provided. The developers put forward the fact that package deals will encourage coaches and minibuses to take people in and around the locality and the region. Environmentally, the proponents have addressed the issue of the conservation category or the multiple use wetland category, wetland next door, and they've been invited to submit a application to change the classification of the wetland. The appropriate authorities, SWER and DBCA, have made their comments and requested certain changes to the development, make it less environmentally intrusive onto the Toby Inlet buffer. Flooding and water management have been covered. I think the requirements for construction environmental management plan and the construction management plan, they can be put together. I think the issue there is to make sure that during construction there are no impacts, undue impacts on the community. Bushfire has been covered. I think that that's important in the locality given the scale and nature of the development. So all in all, this development does cover all the major concerns. The principal concern in this whole development is the access into and out of the site. That's not going to be an easy one to resolve, and it will undoubtedly be a costly exercise, given that there are a number of services, and knowing how the service authorities react to roads in and near them, they'll probably be asking for them to be relocated. And there's some significant ones there, but given the cost of this development, I think it should be able to be handled. So given all of that, I do support the development, and I would be making some amendments to the recommendations. Yes. We can start rolling on. Yes. We're proposing to deal with them one by one.
Please.
Agreement of the panel members. In terms of the amendment number 1, proposing that, and I'll refer to the city's response, the applicants requested, and the document we have here, the comments are in red. So hopefully we all understand which ones I'm moving. So amendment number 1, I'm condition 3.2. I'm proposing that the wording that the city consents to the rewording of the condition. I'll read it out just to make sure that we're all familiar with it. The road access design shall be designed to the required specification of main roads, demonstrating suitable road upgrades to Caves Road to achieve sufficient compliance with OST roads for a minimum of 80 km design speed. The road design shall also identify and include all existing utility services and how they will be accommodated in the final design.
Thank you. Mr. Coltas is moving that. I'm seeking a seconder. I'm happy to second, but actually with the deletion of the word minimum.
I'll agree with that.
Thank you, Mr. Coltas. So that's moved by Mr. Coltas, seconded by Member Hyde. Member Coltas, would you like to speak to it?
No, I think it's fairly straightforward. The proponents and the council have agreed that the wording is just makes it a bit more rational.
Indeed. I don't wish to speak to it. I think we've discussed it quite thoroughly so far through questions, but would any other member like to speak for or against this amending motion? If not, we'll put amending motion 1 to the vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Back to you, Member Coltas.
Okay. Condition number 3.4, I have moved that condition be deleted. Yes. Was changed accordingly.
Seconder for that. Member Hyam, second. Did you want to speak to it?
Just to say that it's a request of the applicants and agreed to by the city in reason being that it's not required at this stage.
Member Hyam, did you wish to speak to it? Other speakers for amendment 2? If not, we'll put amendment 2 to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Back to you, Member Coltas.
3.9, I'd move that the No, I'll leave that as, sorry. Reword 3.11. Rewording of the condition to read parking operational management plan to be made available and or demonstrate management of suitable transfer arrangements to cater for the needs of hotel guests, staff, visitors to the conference centre and servicing of the premises.
Thank you. That's the city's words. Is there a seconder for that, please? The Hyam seconds. Do you wish to speak to it?
Only to the extent that it's been agreed to by the applicants, and the city agrees that it can cover a number of parking arrangements on site.
Member Hyam has seconded. Did you wish to speak?
Thank you.
Any other speakers for that amendment? If not, we'll put that to the vote. Those in favour of that amendment? That's unanimous. Thank you. Back to you, Member Colters.
Delete condition 3.15.
Okay, is there a seconder for that?
Sorry.
We should withdraw that.
Withdraw that one.
Okay, thank you.
Reword condition 3.17. The wording, a detailed schedule of external finishes, including materials, colour schemes, and details must be submitted and approved by the city prior to the commencement of any building works. A detailed schedule should be in accordance with prescribed materials identified by the City of Busselton Local Planning Scheme number 21, or else otherwise agreed.
That's what's there at the moment. 317.
Okay. That's the revised wording, isn't it?
The revised wording is a detailed schedule of external finishes, bracket, including materials, colour scheme, details, bracket, must be submitted and approved by the city.
That was 3.17. Okay. That's what I'll move.
I think there's some liberty taken actually in the table submitted by the applicant. You're quite right, Mr. Colfax, there was a follow up.
Yeah.
So how do you wish to move?
Well, as I just read, the city suggests the following revised wording of 3.17, which wasn't.
No, it wasn't transcribed into the table that came through this morning.
No.
Its entirety.
They're an approved schedule. From the city. The prescribed wording. Was the same as what's in there.
Removing the red words.
Well, 317 as I've got here to reword on the council's follow-up. Slightly different, but not much different. Or else as otherwise agreed. All right, I'll move that rewording on 317.
As per the city.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that, please? Seconds. Member Coltas, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you.
Member Hyam, would you like to speak to it?
Just clarify the condition a bit.
Sorry. Are there other speakers on that amendment? I'd like to speak to it. I do note that referring to the city's scheme, that there is something called had a note of it, something to do with prescribed, and it does talk around dark colours in the city's scheme. And I just wonder if, you know, relating back to the city scheme is necessarily whether that's exactly what is required here, or whether it's just an agreement between the city and the applicant as to what's appropriate for this particular development, rather than a specification of the scheme. That's a personal view. Anyway, back to you, Coltas. Did you wish to close on that?
Leave it at that. I think the applicants and the city have already indicated that they are prepared to look at different colours, and it does say as otherwise agreed.
Okay. Okay, those in favour of this amendment? Member Coltas?
No. Oh, sorry. Yes.
We're at the vote. Thank you. That's unanimous. Okay. Any further amendments?
Condition 3.1. G, I'm moving deletion of that and deletion of O. 3.18.
3.1 and a deletion of G and O. Is there a second, please? Member Hyam, thank you. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, I think that actually I will withdraw G.
You're just dealing with O.
Just with O. That G, the construction management plan should address the following issues where applicable. It's up to the proponents to demonstrate why a dilapidation report is not applicable. And
without a seconder.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Yes, dilapidation reports are generally required in heavily built up areas, especially if construction techniques like sheet piling and contiguous piling, etc., where the ground is disturbed quite a bit. It does, no doubt, in urban areas, it can go up to 200 metres from the boundary of the site. In this area, I think that it'll be fairly easy to demonstrate with the techniques of construction that they won't be required. But I think from an insurance point of view, developers and contractors always undertake them if they think it's necessary. In regards to O, deleting O, I think that it's fairly broad, and I think it lacks a bit of certainty. I think the council's agreed it can be deleted as well.
Thank you.
I agree with the comments made by Member Coltas.
Other speakers on that amendment? If not, we'll put that amendment to the vote. Those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Still with you.
Condition 3.1I, an amendment to that, rewording of the condition in regard to tree protection plan. I won't read all of that. The applicants have agreed to it as well. So it's really just moving that amendment.
The rewording as per the city's wording.
Yeah, as per the city wording for 3.19.
Seconder for that. I'm happy to second that. Would you like to speak to it?
Just that the tree protection plan will be, I'm sure, moulded into the construction and environmental management plan and construction management plan, as well as the trees on the site and in an adjoining road.
I'm comfortable with that amendment as it relates purely to the site and not to other areas of site. So I'm happy with that clarity provided through the rewording. Other speakers on this amendment? If not, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour of this amendment? That's unanimous. Thank you. Any further amendments?
Deletion of condition 6.2.
Clerk.
Down to the accommodation.
That's deletion of 6.2. Seconder for that, please. Member Hyam. You wish to speak there?
I think the city and applicants have agreed to the deletion of that condition, a tourist accommodation for temporary purposes, and no, the hotel is not proposing to provide any accommodation for a period exceeding 3 months.
Thank you. Member Hyam, did you wish to speak to it? Other speakers on that amending motion? If not, we'll go to the vote on that. Those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Any further amendments?
Not from me.
You wish to say anything further at this point? Okay. Other speakers on the motion as we have before us? Member Hyam.
Thank you. This is an impressive development, and as has been said before, a much needed facility for this location. So congratulations to the applicants and plans there. I'm happy to support it, and in doing so, I note the comments from some of the submissions that have been made and some of the concerns. However, from reading the documentation and the conditions that we're looking to impose, those issues are largely put to bed. In terms of building height, I note that it exceeds the specified height in the scheme. However, any visual impact is offset by the distance from the road and the proposed materials required to be used, and also the landscape screening. So I'm happy to exercise discretion in relation to the building height. The environmental values, a note from the comments made by Member Coltaz in relation to the DBCA and DWER, that they have looked at these issues and don't believe that there is sufficient or confirm that the site retains very few ecological values and can be supported from that point of view. Also note that the city, together with DWER and the applicant, are satisfied that any issues around drainage and other water management issues can be addressed. In terms of parking, there is a shortfall of 15 bays, but again, with taking into account reciprocal parking and other parking management plan, these issues can be easily addressed. Like Member Coltaz, I suppose the big issue for me was the access into the site and the design requirements for Caves Road at that point. I always have some concerns when we're looking to have conditions which require the applicant to go away and confer with another authority and get another authority's approval. However, on this occasion, I'm prepared to accept those conditions that we have amended because I think they will work. And I know that that the applicant will act in good faith there and seek the guidance of Main Roads through this proposed design process. Having said that, I am more than happy to support the proposal, and I hope it gets constructed in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hyam. I will speak to the motion. I'm very comfortable with this proposal as it's consistent with the aims of the scheme and the vision for the location. There's already an established land use here which attracts clientele, and this one basically sits in its place and provides still further opportunities for economic development associated with the attractions of the area. I understand that the facilities, including the restaurant, is just for the benefit of the hotel clientele. So the level of attraction and visitation can be limited and controlled and managed. It's a quality development. There's ample landscape. It's taken into account the various complexities of the landform. But there is also a need to recognise that the surrounded location is an area in transition with other subdivisions and other works associated. And I think that's why, consistent with Member Hyam, I'm comfortable with the level of flexibility being provided in the conditions, particularly to allow for future changes in road speed, as has been foreshadowed by the main roads and the city. I think that that's quite appropriate. I'm generally very comfortable with the amendments that we have made, but I do have a few others to suggest in accordance with the responses that we received from the city. And that is, and it's in connection with condition 315, the city did identify a couple of dot points in their response, which they felt should be advice notes, which would, with regard to condition 315, those 2 dot points should be placed as advice notes. But I would like, under the first dot point, to also remove to the satisfaction of the city, because that generally talks to a condition rather than an advice note. So that is an amendment that I would like to make. Those 2 advice notes, an advice note with 2 dot points related to condition 315. I have a seconder, Member Coltas. Thank you. I think that just provides a little clarity that was sought around what the risk management plan should entail. Did you wish to speak to it?
No.
Okay. Any other speakers on that amendment? If not, we'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. I had a further amendment to condition 322. Which relates to lighting, and I propose to amend this for it simply to require a lighting management plan, full stop, and to delete the other wording. So I have a seconder for that, please. Member Hyam seconds that. The reason I'm proposing this is because I think Australian standards sit outside of our planning context. They will occur anyway and need to be considered. I think the city, in response to questions, identified that there could be some conflict between dark sky principles and then lighting up an intersection. So to avoid that inconsistency in a condition, I think if we just keep it like a lighting management plan, then those discussions can happen through the applicant and the officers relevant. So that's my reason.
Agree.
Thank you. Any other speakers on that amendment? If not, we'll go to the vote. Those in favour of that amendment? That's unanimous. Thank you. I have one final amendment I would like to make, and that's to condition 5.5, which talks to memoranda on title, and I would like to delete, I think it's B, that relates to the traffic. So that's my amendment. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Member Coltas. The reason I'm doing this is because I have heard from the city and also the applicant that we are somewhat removed from the road in terms of measuring the accommodation and the sensitive receptors versus any noise emitted from the major roads in the vicinity. And I think it's perhaps an unnecessary aspect to go through to place a memorial on title in that regard, and particularly given the changes that are occurring in the road network, which ultimately over time they change the nature of the road that accesses this development. That's my reason. Do you wish to speak to it?
No, I agree.
Any other speakers on this amendment?
Question, if I may.
Yes.
So you're suggesting that B be removed?
Yes.
And that C becomes B?
That's right. The other 2 points that the city raised, Councillor Ryan, would remain, and I am in agreement with them remaining. It was only the traffic and SPP 5.4 that I had issue with. Thank you. If there are no other speakers, let's put this amendment to the vote. Those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. I have no further amendments to make. I think I am the last speaker other than the mover, who I will return to, Councillor Ryan, to have right of reply and to close debate.
Terrific. Thank you for the opportunity. Considering Busselton has a lot of issues with...
Oh, wait, sorry. Pardon me, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Cox, I think I've just been advised that I might have missed you out of this order of speaking. So my sincere apologies. Would you like to, pardon me, Councillor Ryan, I'm going to allow Councillor Cox to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just speak very briefly. I concur with all the other panel members in terms of the quality of this development, and I do support this development. I have had some concerns through the RAR, but I believe that they have been largely addressed with the amended conditions that we have that have been put forward. Mr. Palmer has operated a successful winery and hospitality business from this location for many years and made significant contributions to the community. And I believe that he is cognizant of the environmental values and the close proximity to Toby's Inlet. And I'm hopeful that the amended conditions that have been put forward will address any traffic concerns with the ingress and egress of this development. And I believe that it will be an asset to the local community and to Dunsborough. And I commend them on the quality of this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. And again, my apologies for missing you there in the order of speaking. Councillor Ryan, I'll go back to you now as mover of the motion to close debate.
Thank you. Yeah, as I was saying, we have difficulties down here with unhosted holiday homes and many communities being devoid of full-time residents. So this type of accommodation is welcomed in our area. Yeah, look, the heights are a concern for locals, but I think that I use one of the our famous photographers in town's development as a sort of a good planning icon, as it's stepped back, and therefore it's unknown that it's actually a 3-story building and it's been there forever. And I think good design is evident here. I am well aware that the developer has had a lot of involvement over the years with Toby's Inlet and environmental issues. And as long-standing members of the community, this developer is a good one as far as developers are concerned, and is aware of the environment and assists where he can. I think that we will have to defer to Main Roads and the developer to ensure that we have a good access and egress. And finally, it's disappointing for everyone, not just in Dunsborough, but in Vass and Busselton and anybody that travels the roads, that the VDL link has been put on the back burner. I recall when I was on council in 2005 that the Vasti VDL was on the horizon, and it's still been put back. So it's disappointing, and we continue to lobby the Main Roads and government to have it reinstated as a matter of urgency. thank you for the opportunity, and I welcome this development. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now put the substantive as amended to the vote. Those in favour? That's a unanimous decision. Thank you. And just briefly then back to the agenda. Under other business, we have a few items for this development assessment panel sat, but nothing before this from this local government. And there being no further business, I'd like to thank Councillor Cox and Councillor Ryan for their attendance, the local government officers and Main Roads officers, panel members, and their presentation, and draw the item to a close at 11:26.